So the iPhone 13 Pro is a steal of an iPhone deal right now, especially if you find it third party. So let's go ahead and take a look at eBay, where people will resell their phones typically. And you can actually find an iPhone 13 Pro for under $600 in some cases. That is an absolute steal for what you're going to get here. You can also find it for around $600. If it's in better condition, it's going to push around the $700 mark. But keep in mind, you can get an iPhone 13 Pro for cheaper than a regular iPhone 14. Did you hear that correctly? You can get a 13 Pro for cheaper than a regular iPhone 14. Now, the iPhone 13 Pro really does have quite a few things that are really important to discuss here as we're going into April. We're not looking like we're seeing an iPhone SE this quarter, so definitely we're going to be looking at some of the older iPhone options as some deals. First thing is the build and design. So the design you're going to get here is going to be very similar to that of the iPhone 14 Pro. And even right now, because this phone doesn't have quite as large of camera bumps as the 14 Pro, and it has the same build essentially all around the board, besides Dynamic Island, it's essentially still a stunning and beautiful phone that doesn't really feel any different than something you would buy right now that's brand new. Now, yes, it does still contain an Apple A15 Bionic chipset, but the thing about this A15 Bionic chipset is it's the same one you're going to find in the recently launched yellow iPhone 14 Plus and 14. So you're getting the same chip with a triple camera versus a dual camera. Another thing I really like about the iPhone 13 Pro series is that the iPhone 13 Pro series has a better consumer grade camera. What I mean by that is because they went to a 48 megapixel main sensor on the newer camera system for the 14 Pro series, you do get a little bit of blurring in the background, and sometimes it can make for an image you might have to take twice. So the 14 Pro, definitely a little bit more pro. With the iPhone 13 Pro, every single picture you take is like perfect focus all the time. It's a phenomenal camera. And one thing iPhones do well, and very well, is video. They really are the best, I think, out there on a phone for video quality. Not only do they stay in focus very well, but they also have incredible results that can rival some phones that just feel like a lot higher end, but when you open up the cameras, they kind of don't match up to the iPhone. So definitely very good. Also, the camera in here is definitely going to be similar to something like you'll find on a point and shoot camera overall. So a very nice pro setup here for you on that front. Also, if you want to save some money, you're going to get a display that is ProMotion here, and you don't got to pay for an iPhone 14. That makes this a steal still. I'm just so excited for this phone right here because I think in the form this is in, you will be able to get this later on, like after the 15 comes out, at a ridiculous deal. I mean, as we're going forward and technology is improving, everyone's going to have, I mean, not that everyone don't already have like pretty good smartphones. Most people have a pretty nice smartphone. It's going to get to a point where everyone's going to have a premium smartphone. So you'll have no excuse not to use the camera to do some creations, or you have no excuse that your phone's not fast enough to compute. You're going to have some of the highest end phones at cheap prices if you know where to look. If you don't spend that cash on a newer, cheaper phone, just go get the older used model. But this OLED panel, still fantastic. It still feels like anything that's launching in 2023. And for that reason, some people say that the newer phones are getting boring because they kind of do launch similar stuff. This one doesn't get quite as bright, but 1,000 nits or so is still very bright on this phone. So it's still up there. Even though we went 2,000 on the newer iPhone, I think this one hit like a 1,200 nit peak. So this is pretty bright as well. Also, 460 pixels per inch on here means that you're not dealing with no 1080p style display. So that's kind of something you're going to get on the S23 is a 1080p display. So this could be a cheaper alternative option to something like an S23 if that's not for you. And you'll get sharper text, about the same smoothness of a display, but you'll get sharper panel here for the iPhone 13 Pro. So that's another way this is pretty good. Now, this did launch with iOS 15, but you are going to have software updates for years to come. It's on 16.3 right now. We're going to be on 16.4 soon. But if you buy this, you still have 4 years left or so of updates. So it's not like you're investing in something that's not going to be supported. It will be supported for years to come. It's pretty amazing. Also, with the iPhone 13 Pro, its base storage level was only 128 gigs. But I say only like that's not a lot. That's only not a lot if you're doing 4K video. The good thing is that you are capable of finding this phone with up to 1 terabyte of storage, which means that you can get very good amount. Now you could see you can fill up that storage pretty quickly here. I've already used 107 gigs. So if you are going to be doing video, you're downloading a ton of apps, you're going to need a little more storage, but you do have the capabilities of 1 terabyte. That's pretty good on this phone. Now you also do have, triple camera setup on the rear, which we talked about earlier, but you have the LiDAR sensor and you could do all that AR stuff. And you do have the telephoto. That's something you're not going to get on the 14 Plus or the iPhone 14 at a similar price point at this point. So that makes it a steal. 3x optical and 15 times. Now, 15 times is enough zoom for most people. However, if you're looking to reach really far, the Samsung options are still going to be good alternatives if you're willing to be open-minded to try something else. Another thing about the iPhone 13 Pro that makes this a steal is that it actually has better battery life than the iPhone 14 Pro, and that's mostly due to having a dimmer display, not dim, just dimmer than the iPhone 14 Pro. And also this display on here, not just the display, but the overall CPU performance is pretty optimized similarly as well as the iPhone 14 Pro, so your battery life just lasts longer. I just couldn't get over how good the battery life was on the iPhone 13 Pro. Now the 13 Pro only has Wi-Fi 6, not 6E, and it does have Bluetooth 5.0, so it's not the top level, but it's up there. So if you decide to keep the iPhone 13 Pro, even past the 15 Pro launch, it's still going to be a fantastic phone. It has excellent build quality, 5G, MagSafe, fast charging. It's still using Lightning. We're probably going to see it switch to USB-C this year, which will be a pretty big upgrade, but not everyone's going to care or be happy about having to get new USB-C cables if they don't already have some. You have excellent cameras on here, man, and you do have really good color options such as this Sierra Blue here, also Alpine Green, which I covered last year, Gold, Silver, and the classic Graphite colorway, which some people actually like more than the Space Black, so you have that option as well. This is not only a good alternative option to the iPhone 14, but it's a good alternative option to the iPhone 14 Pro as well if you don't need the dynamic island or those extra features. While the notch will start to feel dated as Apple continues to improve the design of the phone and likely seeing more ultra-thin bezels this year, these will start to look a little bit thicker. This phone is still built to go the long haul. So I think you're getting a steal of a deal right now. And that's all I have to say about this as we revisited this today. The iPhone 13 Pro still doing amazing. If you guys want to see me put this up against some other phones still here in 2023, let me know which those phones are in the comments below. I'll consider making those videos, and I'll catch you on the next one. Also, if you have an iPhone 13 Pro, consider sharing your experience with it so far. It helps people out who are in a search for a new phone. They read the comments before they buy a new phone or doing their research, and it really helps out everybody. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.